evening, everyone. My name is Yasmin Freitman. I am the marketing coordinator for the NSU Innovation Center. I just want to welcome everyone today to our VIP Listen and Learn event. And today for our event, we'll be listening to Michaels Feggans. Just to tell you a little bit about Michael, he's a retired U.S. Air Force Master Sergeant. He last served as Superintendent, 71st Healthcare Operations in the 71st Healthcare Operations Squadron of the 71st Medical Group at the Vance Air Force Base in Oklahoma. In that position, he served as the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Squadron Commander on all issues regarding the health, welfare, morale, and effective utilization of more than 70 active duty civilian and contractor personnel. He also served as the Deputy Chief Information Officer, where he directly oversaw the completion of various technical issues and ensured the Defense Health Agency's cybersecurity policies and procedures were appropriately applied to more than $10 million of information technology systems. He is a recipient of the Meritorious Service Medal, Air Force Commendation Medal with 2 Oak Leaf clusters, Air Force Achievement Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal. His accomplishments go on. And then his educational background includes a Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Administration from Park University, a graduate certificate in political science from Virginia Tech, and a Master of Science in Cybersecurity from Norfolk State. And now he is currently the CEO and owner of Outerbridge Technical Solutions, which focuses on cybersecurity, technology, and workforce development consulting, and is located in Virginia Beach. So before we start, I'd just like everyone to take note of a few things. At the top of the chat, there are a few links for the Innovation Center, as well as some business and contact information for our guest speaker. And lastly, just please remember to mute your mics. If you have any questions at any point during the presentation, please put them in the chat and we will address them at some point during the event. So without further ado, please welcome Michaels Feggans.
Hey, thank you so much for that introduction. And again, like she has stated, I do a lot of courses, teaching Zoom courses, of course, around the world. And with all my classes, I like to, try to make it as interactive as possible. Just like I did when I was wearing the uniform, and when we're having our classes. Please, I don't want to make this just a one-way conversation. So if you have questions, yes, like she stated, please put that in the chat, and I'll make sure to answer that. And at the end, yeah, I definitely want to save some time for individuals to unmute their mic if they feel comfortable, and we'll have some hopefully some great conversations on this. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get started. All right, so with the once again, thank you for that great introduction. So like you said, I'm this is home for me. So I just finished serving about 20 years in the Air Force. My original background is in healthcare, but I was always a nerd, and I was always an entrepreneur at heart in some form or fashion, and we'll go a little bit over that in the within this discussion. So I originally grew up around here, here being Virginia Beach, grew up in West Kempsville, went to Tallwood High School, and right after Tallwood High School, I knew my path was going to go into the Air Force. Really, that was because I wanted to advance my education. I knew my family wouldn't be able to just send myself, my sister, and my brother to college, and so I made the decision, being the oldest one, to enlist into the Air Force. And it was a great decision. The Air Force and the military at whole, they paid for my education, and that was always my main goal. I enjoyed serving. I enjoyed serving country and traveling, but I always kept education as my starting point, and my end goal is the end goal of what I want to be. So I initially wanted to be an IT nerd, and so I grew up breaking down computers. Reading all the computer magazines at Food Lion, going to thrift stores and buying old computers, helping neighbors set their computers up. And so in my head, I was like, all right, I'm going to join the Air Force, and I'm going to be the greatest IT person in the world. Well, life sometimes shows those curveballs, and I initially didn't have the chance to go into the field I wanted to. And so I joined as a health services management, which means for my first 10 years, I did traditional healthcare administration. So everything that it takes to run a hospital. Hence why my bachelor's is in healthcare. But I knew in the back of my mind that that technology is where I was eventually going to be at. That was going to find my way into IT. Thankfully, at about my 10-year mark, I had the chance to have a great job. It was a position that on paper I probably wasn't qualified for at the time, but someone took a shot on me, and I'm thankful for it. And so I was able to become a healthcare IT professional. So from there, I started my journey of learning what it, I literally started on the ground of learning what it means to to build computers, to help build networks, to manage them. And over time, I went from traditional help desk to section leads, in terms of running a help desk, to running network shops. And then I started getting more into policy, and then finally I was able to get my way into cybersecurity. I started working on that, and I owe a lot of what I've been able to do over the past couple of years due to my education of attaining my master's in cybersecurity from Norfolk State. A lot of what I've been able to do over the past 10 years, was due to the education. And, a lot of it was, just going out there and trying things that, a lot of times the individuals probably didn't think, I was capable of. So I was able to serve as a deputy chief information officer at multiple bases. I was, also was a lot of times dual hatted as an information security officer as well. And so, those experiences in the Air Force, allowed me in terms of not only just the technical skills, but the soft skills of understanding and leading and managing people, and learning what it means to lead an organization, helped me into creating what I have now today, my own cybersecurity consulting firm, Outerbridge Technical Solutions. And so with Outerbridge Technical Solutions, we really focus on 3 areas. We focus on cybersecurity consulting, so that, that can be from, advising small companies. And that's really what, I founded OTS on, was to focus really on the small companies out there, the mom and pop shops, those that, if you work in a bakery, or if you work in the fashion industry, you want to focus on your area. You don't want to have to focus on, okay, I'm going to be the best designer, but I also need to worry about how do I protect my customer information? How do I make sure that my network is secure? What type of technology do I need to have to advance my business? And that's what Outerbridge Technical Solutions, or OTS, as I call it, has been able to lay out a nice niche towards. And so, cybersecurity consulting. We also work in technology consulting. We're working with small insurance companies right now that are looking to bring on new forms of technology that can help them get over their competitors. And then finally, the latest and last vertical that we focus on at OTS is workforce development, specifically in the veterans area. And so, you would normally think from a cybersecurity technology company, why, what does, workforce development really have to deal with? But what we've been able to work with is in terms of getting veterans and working with them in towards, high-tech career fields. And, those career fields can go from getting them involved and getting them transitioned over from working in information technology to actually working in renewable space, to renewable energy. And so that's something that we've been proud to add on over the past 12 months, and we've been able to grow that a lot. One of the areas within cybersecurity that, if you happen to follow cybersecurity, or you happen to work in the federal space, you might have heard of something called CMMC, which is called the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. The easiest way to break down the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, or CMMC, is that if you happen to own a company, or you work for a company and they're looking to do business with the federal government, or they currently do business with the federal government, in the next year, or about 12 to 24 months, they're going to need to meet some baseline cybersecurity standards. So it doesn't matter if you happen to provide maybe physical security or janitorial services to the federal government, or you happen to own a large technology company that helps out the federal government, and that being the Department of Defense. You're going to need to make sure that you meet the CMMC requirements. And so we're currently working on OTS is currently working on its certification to be able to help other companies obtain the certification. And one of the great things that I've been able to do, thankfully, with OTS is, to really give back. I know growing up and being able to, to utilize the computer labs in my elementary or middle school or high school, that's, while I was fortunate enough to have a computer at home, and that's kind of, some of the ways I was able to advance myself. I know that the technology that exists in those schools helped me get to where I am today. And so that's why it's really important for OTS to give back, and and not only just give back in just terms of mentorship, but directly investing in our public schools. And so the past 12 months, we've directly invested in STEM education and technology assets at our local elementary school and middle school here in Virginia Beach, and we'll be looking to directly invest as well in high school and local high school, Tallwood, that I graduated from, and then eventually give back to Norfolk State as well. So like I discussed, when we're looking at where our verticals are at, I wanted to kind of talk about how I was able to obtain some of these some of this business. And so when we're looking at cybersecurity, my major contract right now is supporting the Small Business Development Center. And so if you ever heard of the Small Business Development Centers, they're usually there's a few. There's one at ODU with veterans, and what they do is they assist small businesses. And during when the CARES Act funding came out about 2 years ago, one of the small business development centers in Guam reached out and stated that they had an upcoming contract, and they asked me if I'd be interested in putting a bid in for it. At the time, I had never actually created, I had never responded to a proposal before. So, but I had established my business in 2017. By 2020, I really hadn't had a chance to work on it and obtain customers. But I knew it was important. I knew it was important for me to have the company ready in case an opportunity arise. And I just happened to be, I happened to be at the right place, the right time. I had served in Guam previously. I started to understand the business there and some of the capabilities and what they needed. And so I applied for it, and I was able to obtain my first contract. And then obtaining that first contract led to so many other opportunities. So with consulting for the Small Business Development Center, what I do is actually provide them 3 different resources. The first one is actually being their managed service provider, and so I provide their tier 1 tech support remotely. The second is that I'm doing direct consulting for any small business, for any SBDC customer that they have. So say, for example, if the example of insurance company, if an insurance company is a customer, is a client of SBDC, they'll ask for assistance maybe in securing their networks or maybe getting some consulting going on. So what the customer what the client gets is free consulting through OTS, and then I'm able to grow and understand maybe a different business area that I never had the chance to work in. And so it's a great partnership. I'm able to build up my customer base. Those clients are able to get free consulting through the SBDC, and I'm able to expand my knowledge by meeting new customers from all around the world. The third portion that we have with our current SBDC contract is that we provide cybersecurity courses. So right now we have a 4-part series that we teach monthly. If you ever happen to see any of those courses, from the different Virginia PTACs or any of the SBA or SBDCs, what you'll see are those are the type of courses that we teach. And so within the 4 courses, we teach a cybersecurity basics, and so it's geared towards any individual that that works for a small business, or they're an executive and they want to know more about how to protect their assets. We also have a mobile device course that we teach in terms of teaching individuals, how to add mobile devices into their workspace, into their workflow. Next, we have a course called Cybersecurity Hygiene, which really focuses on how to protect your customer data and make sure that any data that you do transmit is properly secured. And the last course that we recently added was the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification course. That's probably our most in-depth course that we have, and where it's almost about 2 hours long. There's a lot of great information in there, but we're able to help out those that are looking to maybe work in the federal space, but they maybe they don't really understand what CMMC is about. And so that's the 3 parts that we currently work with in terms of SBDC. I'm also working as a cybersecurity consultant for a company for Leidos, working on their operational medicine side. So with that, I'm able to utilize a lot of my experience from working in the Air Force and being a medical IT professional. And now I'm able to leverage that and provide consulting for Leidos. Next, the same thing goes for the technology and training. We provide those same type of resources for SBDC and Leidos. But one of our newest clients is working for providing workforce development for New College Institute. So what we do for New College Institute is based in Martinsville, Virginia. What we provide is veteran workforce development for their renewable energy program, specifically their global wind. So what I'm able to do is I'm able to utilize my experience as working, of 20 years of experience in the Air Force, and really provide that in-depth information, not only to New College Institute on how to attract veterans, but also to work with other partners that they're trying to bring in that are working in the renewable energy sector, especially with the wind turbines that are growing and that are being tested and developed off the coast of Virginia. So those are our 3 verticals, 3 areas that we're currently working in right now in OTS. It's small, but it's exciting to be able to work in such a very different areas, and to be able to utilize much of the knowledge and experience that I gained from being in the military and from my education. So this is just an example of just one of the courses that we teach. I won't go the full 2 hours and provide. So I just want to kind of give a slide and an example of what the course looks like, and it's something that maybe if you're looking at wondering like how can you get into a space, one of the areas I can say is that, hey, everyone on this call is an expert in something, and it's just figuring out a way and figuring out a client. So maybe if you're interested in teaching courses, and you can contact the local SBA or SBDC or PTACs and see if they have openings, or see if they have potential contracts coming along, to where you could actually teach, and say, hey, I'm a professional, I'm an expert in this field or that field. Do you have do your clients that utilize your resources need any of these type of courses? And so that's kind of where we started with, and it's been a really successful endeavor. So one of the questions, we'll get started in terms of the just the main portion of this. And when we're looking at this, one of the first question that's asked is, what in my life prepared me for entrepreneurship? Well, I'm going to talk, it's my military experiences. That was where I gained so much from it that it's sometimes hard to put into put into words, what it meant for me to be able to have the day-to-day experience that they give you. It's pretty normal by the time you're 21 or 22 in the military to have, dozens of people that you're responsible for, large budgets, and then just the responsibility of of taking care of individuals. And so that really helps to, that really helps to grow you as a leader. And, especially, and then if you're looking to get into entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur, those skill sets help out a lot. A lot of it for me though was that there were, of course, there's going to be individuals that tell you no, and it's fine, because one of the things that I always say is that it's your dream. I've always had a lot of dreams. When I started, I can remember one of my first business as a kid was starting a lawnmower, a lawn service company. And then people kind of looking like, why are you starting it so, at so young? And I knew that, I was always wanting to grow and grow a business. And, OTS is just it's my most successful endeavor, but it's not my first endeavor. I've worked in the music industry, and I've worked in creating content and being a media producer. Those were all businesses that I did while doing my day-to-day military job as well. And so, I'd wake up, go to work from 7:30 to 4:30. And then after I get off work on my homework, and then, clock in, and then start building my dreams. And so that's where a lot of, I would always say is that it's a lot of it is in time management. I was thankful that, I was able to utilize, going to, I had school paid for through the military. I had a steady job, and a steady paycheck, so I could always take a lot of risk. So it's not going to be like that for everybody, but I do say that, when you do have downtime, that you're always able to work on your dreams. Now I'm going to always give credit to my mom for always just, for always telling me that, to go after your dreams, and I always have. I also look back at the tech boom, at the tech boom of the 90s. I remember just looking at all these startups that were happening, and as a kid, and reading the Virginia Pilot, and looking what little information was online in the early 90s, using AOL and whatnot, and then just diving in and just seeing that, that these were individuals that were creating, tech companies out of nowhere, it seemed sometimes, growing them from, like their garages or their house, and starting from there. And so that really inspired me. And then using the internet, for a lot of times, when I had a job when I was in the Air Force, where I worked night shift. And so at night, when there was downtime, I would just spend hours and hours on different sites just reading. And I've never really been much of a traditional like book learner. I always just enjoyed reading technical manuals, and reading different online encyclopedias. And that's how I was able to gain a lot of my experience, that for areas that I didn't understand or didn't know. I would just dive in a lot, and just spend as much time just trying to get that knowledge to a place to where I could utilize it. So the next question that's for this series is, we're going to talk about what prepared me, what in my life prepared me to be an entrepreneur. Also we're going to talk about when I talk about the importance of just reading like the boring stuff. And a lot of times that is just reading, for business, it was just reading about how to grow it, and the laws, and the legal issue, the legal areas, the tax areas, what most people consider like the non-sexy stuff. Like, yeah, it's great to think about, and to dream, and to read about like the area that you're going to work on, but it's also just important to look in and figure out, not only because when you're starting off, you're gonna have to be everything. Yeah, I'm just now, after a couple of years growing OTS, getting to the point of where we're hiring individuals. But at the start, you're the CEO, you're the web designer, you're social media, you're the tax person at first, and until you can have the revenue to pay somebody. And so that's where I say it's important to dive in. Always, it's always important for me to kind of learn from the mistakes of other business leaders. I've made mistakes, and I'm going to continue to make mistakes, and that's just what happens when you're trying to advance, not only yourself but your dreams. You're going to stumble and fall, but you learn a lot, and sometimes it's good to kind of look at those who have made those mistakes and learn from them. And then for me, working in healthcare, I can say that it helped me grow my IT business a lot, because working in healthcare was always about putting the patient first. And so, I would always look at whatever business I was trying to grow or starting up and say, what do I need to look at as a customer, and what would make them feel great about the product? How do I need to respond to them? How do I need to have that quick follow-up, that innovative product, and that's going to make them want to become a client, or to work with OTS, or to work with my firm. And so, I would always say, as you're growing your companies, and you're joining one, you're joining a firm or joining a partnership, it's always talked about that, customer service, but there's a lot that really goes into customer service, and understanding a customer, and making sure that that they're understood. And so I would always suggest just taking the time to really understand, to understand your customers, and to make sure that you're putting you're putting your customer first, and understanding the best ways to treat them. So how did I make the decision to become an entrepreneur? Well, I'm gonna, this is a listen learn talk, and I'm gonna be completely honest. That when you're going through school, and especially if you're going through your business courses, they say there's certain steps, and you create a business plan, and you reach out. And I can say I've never really created the traditional business plan, but I did just I would do my research, and then I would go. And that's really how I've always been. My nickname has always been Fego. That's my nickname that I got from the military, because I was always just like on the go. I would just think of something, do my research, and kind of go. And and not really thinking sometimes, okay, what happens if I fail? But it's just sometimes you just have to just take that leap. And so that's why it's sometimes it's important just to not get in your own way. There's a lot of individuals who have a lot of talent or a lot of ambition. Sometimes you just need that extra spark to move forward. One of the areas I would say is that seeing those that that were in business, or were in areas that I believe I could work in, but I didn't necessarily feel like they were they were incredibly, they worked harder, or they were smarter. I always felt that I could, if I put in the work, or I put in the time to learn, that I could build something just as great as anyone else. Doesn't mean that I came, I would come from the same background, and I have the same connections, and I would have the same network, and I would have the same resources. But I was always going to try and put my best foot forward, and look at those and say, I was look at them and say, hey, if they could do it, then that would give me the spark to say, okay, then I could do it too. One of the reasons I love being an entrepreneur and wanted to, is because I wanted to create generational wealth. I wanted to be able to pass down a company, and pass down investments, and set my own schedule, and set my own time, and do what I need to do, and be able to pass it on to my child and my family, to be able to bring on, to be able to hire my family, and be able to and utilize their talents, and help it grow, and make it something that everybody in my family could be proud of. I don't come from a traditional business background. My mother was a longtime teacher at Norfolk Public Schools, and my father was a firefighter for Norfolk Airport Fire Department. And so, they gave the middle class background that they were able to raise me in, helped me get to where I am today. But a lot of the business areas I had to learn from my own. I didn't have that traditional business mentor growing up. So a lot of it was, reading, seeing what everybody was doing, and trying to emulate it. And like I said, after 20, after working for the military for 20 years, it's an area to where you're told where you're going to move. You're told what you're going to wear every day in terms of your uniform. There's a lot of areas there's a lot of freedoms that you give up for the chance, for the opportunity to wear the uniform. And I was fortunate for that. And I loved my 20 years, but I knew there was going to be a point. And they say when it's time to hang it up. And when I reached about 20 years, I knew I wanted to hang it up, and try something different. And I had a lot of great opportunities and offers to work for, to move to San Francisco, or to go to Washington, to go to DC, and work there for tech companies. But I knew, or federal companies that work in the tech space. But I knew that this was my chance. I'm 38 right now, and so I didn't want to look back. I didn't want to look back and say I should have did this. I should have created my own company. I should have at least tried to do it. And especially because I have my military pension, I could be a little ambitious. I could try that extra effort. And I understand that not everyone has that. They say there's only 1% of individuals, serve in the military. Well, there's even less of that have a military pension. So I am blessed and fortunate that I do have that. But I knew in my heart that I needed to try and to do this. And so far it's been great. No matter what happens in the future, I can look back and say, hey, I built a company. I was able to hire people. I was able to give back to my community, and for that, I always look at that as a blessing. And then, yeah, like in the final part was just, not wanting to regret. I never want to regret not giving it a shot. So the final portion of this is in terms of like customer discovery. I didn't, if you heard some of what I talked about today, is that I haven't done the traditional, business plan, go and get a loan from a business. I never, try to get investors. There's so many different ways for you to create a company. I knew, at least for me, I wanted to start something, and I kind of wanted to have a little control over it, especially after having to, not having so much control over my life over, during my time in the military. I wanted that chance to, to be able to mold it in the image that I wanted to. But, I also didn't, I've never been like a really traditional guy. So like when I started the business, I didn't have the traditional customer, discovery, but, it was, for those that happen to know me personally, that I'm a big fan in Virginia Beach of a place called Glory's Bakery. They have the best lumpia and pizza bread there. So I'm often there and always go there. And when I was serving here last at Langley Air Force Base, I would go there and get something to eat. And I remember just sitting in there and thinking like, who takes care of the baker? Who takes, and from there it sparked, and the idea of Outerbridge Technical Solutions, OTS, came to mind. And then I was like, what am I going to call it? And then I was like, well, I grew up on Outerbridge Quay. I should utilize that. And then OTS is something I never had the chance to do, officer training school in the military. So I saw OTS as a way of creating something I never had. I never had OTS, but also paying it back for being able to grow up in a great environment and growing up on Outerbridge Quay. I didn't do the traditional market analysis and research. I know you're supposed to when you're in business school, and you're taking your courses, or you're meeting up with an advisor, you're meeting up with advisors, and I honestly I felt it in my heart, in my gut, that I could do this. I knew the environment because I had been working in cybersecurity on the federal side, but I didn't really understand it so much on the outside the military, outside the federal side. So there was some information, of course, that I had to learn about, and but I didn't do the traditional market research. And then, one of the ways I would say is just, I do a lot of visualization in terms of just thinking about putting myself, in the customer place, seeing if I owned a pizza shop, would I want to have to deal with having to take care of cybersecurity, or would I be, or would I rather at a fraction of a cost of my own time and money, maybe find a company that can take care of that. And so that's where a lot of my, customer, discovery really came from, was just kind of understanding, my past experiences, and then really just kind of going forward and just diving in. So with that completes the main presentation portion for today. If we have some time still, I would love to take any questions that anybody has, and then we'll go from there. And just thank y'all for listening today.